Hello and welcome to the second episode of On the Ball, the vidcast that takes a look at the problems plaguing Indian football and discussing how to fix them. My name is Gautam Vishwanathan, and in the previous episode I spoke to football fans who told me that the extant problems in Indian football are due to lack of promotion and awareness, the dominance of cricket as a sport, and the poor quality of the Indian game in comparison to Europe. In this second episode, I speak to journalists and financial analysts who tell me why these problems exist and discuss how to fix them. Despite India being ranked 150 in the world's FIFA rankings at present, the nation's football team was one of Asia's best in the 1950s. The fourth place finish at the 1956 Olympics is still regarded as one of the greatest achievements in Indian sporting history. But the mismanagement of the game by the All India Football Federation and the parallel growth and successes of the Indian cricket team are what has led to the stagnation of Indian football. Although sport websites in India do provide in-depth coverage of several foreign leagues, there are few sites that cover India's domestic league or the I-League. Sportskeeda.com is one such site. In addition to providing coverage on foreign football, the site provides in-depth analysis, reports and post-match highlights of Indian football. Musab Abid is the site's senior editor.
See, Indian football, as you are well aware, is not very big right now. It's at I wouldn't even say it's the growth stage because it has been in the growth stage for a long time. There hasn't been much progress with Indian football in the past, say, 40 years. And the biggest difference, I think, is that the fact that every Indian now has access to all the European football games. The Premier League, the La Liga, where the quality of football is so much higher that the interest in Indian football has actually been receding. I wouldn't say receding, but it has really found people have been finding it difficult to actually focus on Indian football when they have the option to see something else which is better in quality. So when there is not enough market for it, people aren't interested enough in Indian football. So it makes sense that no other site, no big site basically, would actually want to cover it in detail because if no one wants to read it, there's no point in writing about it. So it's a cause and effect thing. If there's not enough interest, there won't be enough material in it. On the other hand, if we actually make a conscious effort to not care about the leadership at the start and put as much focus on it as possible and make sure that we get a lot of coverage on it, a lot of features on it, then it's possible that we may kindle some kind of interest among the people. And the thing is that again this hopefully will trigger a chain of reaction. If we put out the information about Indian football out there will be more interest in it, and there will be more people who maybe want to actually participate in it, youngsters who actually want to take coaching in Indian football, and then hopefully the quality could also increase. It's a very long. It sounds very impossible in theory, and it's a lot of things have to go right for it. But the thing is, we have to make an effort somewhere. If we don't, we just say, okay, the quality is not there, so there's no point reporting about it, then we'll never get anywhere. So I know this is not the most ideal situation, but it is a kind of a marketing strategy that you push it onto the people and hope that they will actually find interest in it and then take it forward. There isn't enough revenue in Indian football, and that does play a part in how much effort the government puts into it. Because if you take the example of BCCI, they've got a lot of power, a lot of money, and they've got a lot of political clout as well. So tomorrow if they say that we want this, the government will have to listen and say, okay, we have to give the BCCI that because the BCCI has that much of a say. The Indian Football Federation, the AIFF, on the other hand, if they do ask something from the government will be like, okay, why should we give this to you? What's there in it for us? I know that's not how government is supposed to function, but the reality is that it does. We are all humans, and there has to be something in it for everyone, for something, for effort to be put. So that's, I think, the primary reason why the government hasn't put enough of an initiative into football as it has in other sports.
Okay. You've just spoken about cricket in some detail. How important would you say has been the impact of India's 1983 World Cup triumph in terms of bringing cricket out as a sport and maybe diminishing the limelight on other sports?
Well, I think it's the all-important reason why cricket is where it is today. I mean, for any sport to have a huge fan following, there has to be some kind of quality, there has to be some kind of success. There has to be a reason for Indian support, for the country's supporters to get behind the team. If the cricket team has been successful, there is a lot of things to cheer about. The Indians have been Not just the 1983 World Cup, even after that there's been a lot of success. They won the World Cup in 2007 as well. Sorry, 2011 as well. So, there is something to cheer about for the Indian cricket team. There is Sachin Tendulkar, who is considered to be God by a lot of people, and debate the claim of calling God, but there is no debating that he has been tremendously successful, possibly the most successful cricketer of all time, and that's something that is a source of pride for every Indian. On the other hand, the other sports haven't given that kind of pride for them, so there isn't enough reason for them to support those teams. So it's just again cause and effect. It's like the team is successful, the supporters will get behind it. The team is not successful, there won't be enough interest. The interest right now among Indians is on the lower side, which makes the number of people who sign up for it lower, and because of that, the talent that is available for the football organizations to play in the teams is on the lower side, and then consequently the success of the teams is low. So all of this, first of all, does contribute. Secondly, I do think that Asians in general and Indians in particular are not as suited to football as maybe the European, genetically speaking. It's not a racist thing at all. It's just generally Indians are not athletic, at least traditionally we've not been as athletic as some of the counterparts from Europe and the US. So that's an initial limitation. Obviously there are ways to counter that. There are ways to improve the training methods as countries like Japan and Korea do. But it will take time, because it can't happen overnight. So there are a lot of things have to fall in place though. First of all, the interest among the people has to increase. Once that happens, then the training regimen, the training infrastructure have to improve. And consequently, after that, the success will improve, and then the interest will increase even more. So it's like a cycle that has to, that everything in its path has to go well for the sport to actually achieve that kind of place. In countries like Korea and Japan, these things have already happened in the past, say, 25 years or 30 years. The USA, again, genetically more athletic, inherently higher interest in sports among the common man. In India, if you see, the common man is not as interested in sports as, say, even in Australia for that matter. So that again is one of the initial limitations. It's not going to be a permanent stumbling block, because there are ways to counter it, as we can see in the case of cricket.
The reason people aren't interested in the Indian game is because of the attitude that people involved in the game at the top have towards developing it further, say those who maintain the site.
United, Real Madrid, all the top clubs, they are brands, they're not clubs anymore, they've gone far past that point. Indian clubs don't have a professional setup for marketing or basically how to reach out to the crowd, selling of jerseys, merchandise, all of that. Except Pune FC, and Pune FC is the only one who has a professional setup, who actually have a YouTube channel and have their own website where they give news and they have a chance to interact with the fans and all of that. But that's on a very small level. But even the legendary clubs like Mohun Bagan and East Bengal, they don't really have that much interaction on, like, they're not using technology to the fullest, basically. United has a Twitter account, United has one of the biggest, I think United website gets more hits than the Sportskeeda website, just one club. So obviously number of people, right? There are more number of people watching European football in India than Indian football, because it's just so much easier. And branding for European clubs, it's much cheaper for them to brand in India because of a big full nexus that even the media channels have that start from England and then they come to India. So it becomes very easy for them to telecast in India, especially when there are 1.2 billion people.
Nowadays it's a big blame on cricket that cricket has usurped Indian football. But the point is, yes, of course it's true at one part, but for one sport to survive, you have to produce stars, one, and results, two. Indian cricket was nowhere in the map of the cricketing world before 1983. But since 1983, India has produced stars at a regular basis. It's like Sunil Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid. They have kept on coming on. Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni, and they have multiplied their success as well. But Indian football has gone down because if you say in the 1950s and 60s, India had a pretty successful football team. So did the club sides. The club sides were on upswing. The clubs like Mohun Bagan and East Bengal, they were winning a lot of trophies around India as well. They played well abroad as well. A club like Cosmos, which had Pele, they came down to play against Mohun Bagan and they were held to a 2-2 draw. So you can't say India didn't have quality footballers at that point of time. But the rate of success hasn't been as good as cricket. So when you don't have success, in a particular sport, that sport will go down, the following of that sport will obviously go down. So you can blame it on cricket as much as you like, but you have to agree that cricket has multiplied their success. They have won World Cups, they have attained #1 status in the Test arena, they have won T20s, and they have produced stars and role models whom the Indian youth look up to.
Watching the Indian team is it's not fun. Like again, coming back to the Indian Myanmar match, which was I think it pretty much summed up everything. We lost. India lost that game, and it was basically you could see that more than skill, they didn't have a technical knowledge of what they were doing.
Okay.
So we are so backward in football when it comes to everything. Cricket especially, infrastructure. They've made complete use of infrastructure. Technology, like when you watch a cricket match, you're entertained. They're ensured, even without all the T20, all with that extra innings nonsense, you'll still be entertained. Camera, we use high quality footage, high quality broadcast, goes on channels, you can watch it in HD. Watching Indian football it's like you're 30 years in the past. So even the government hasn't supported football as much as cricket, clearly because of the success. But yeah, it's one the mentality is once India won the World Cup in cricket, once cricket became so popular, even hockey, that way if you look at it, it died after India stopped performing well.
Absolutely.
India's doing so well and hockey was popular all over. And then India started doing badly, even Pune, where some of the best hockey players have come from Pune. So it wasn't just like North India. Hockey is considered more of a North Indian sport, which is not true, even 10 years ago. But it depends on performances. If the Indian team is not going to perform, people are clearly not going to watch it.
Another thing, if I can add to that, was the administrators need to identify a few moments. Like India won the World Cup in 1983, you mentioned that, but till 1996, not many. Cricket wasn't a profitable sport. Parents didn't allow their kids to go out there and become cricketers. But the scenario changed in 1996 actually, when the World Cup came to India.
Yeah.
And someone like Jagmohan Dalmia, if you see, he brought the World Cup to India and he absolutely cashed into that opportunity. He made, he took cricket to grounds, interiors of India, and he made a huge impact. That World Cup made the biggest impact in Indian cricket. And since 1996, cricket started making money because the big sponsors started coming in. So the administrators has to be, they have to put up their hands and say they need to share the blame because they haven't identified the opportunity of marketing football in India as well.
We need that everyday man, that every man. Sachin, basically, we need a Sachin for football. Sachin was so successful in cricket because every single kid could associate with
and
him.
they wanted to be.
They could associate, they could empathize with Sachin when they saw Sachin play. We never had someone like that football. Bachchan Bhutia to a certain level was at that level.
The administrators didn't quite make use of it.
But they didn't make use of it. He went and played in Europe and all of that. But it never helped because there has been no marketing of the I-League. Our I-League is supposed to be our showpiece, right? It's supposed to be our most important league. This is where all our footballers play in the I-League. Even Sunil Chhetri now, after playing everywhere, he's come back and he's playing for Churchill now. So everyone's playing in the I-League. So why is the I-League not being? Why doesn't ESPN Star Sports show the I-League? Why do we watch it on Neo Sports? Why is there not better coverage? Why can't we have HD cameras for a change? Where I feel that I'm watching at least a quality. At least I'm watching something good that looks good.
What the government and the administration can do can improve the viewing experience. You come to the stadium, you get certain kind of facilities. The turfs are good. Like if you remember, Lionel Messi came to India. He played at the Yuva Bharati Kridangan against Venezuela. Argentina plays against Venezuela, and it's on AstroTurf, and it was emitting so much of heat that they had to actually take a timeout in the 77th minute. Now those kind of facilities has to change. You can't expect an international footballer of Lionel Messi's standard. He just has to say stop the game because I'm getting tired here because of the heat. You can't have that.
But development requires money, something that doesn't exist in plenty in the I-League. I was able to get in touch with Opraka Mukherjee of PricewaterhouseCoopers, who spoke to me from Dubai via Skype.
Currently, the kind of companies that you have, I went through the companies that are investing in, the major sponsors for the Indian League, Indian Football League, the I-League, and we have, Reliance, IMG Reliance, who's the major sponsor, and apart from that, Nike. So there is like a serious vacuum in terms of major sponsors. There is no money coming in, and I think the root cause of this is that Indian football in India is not making any money at all. So I read a few articles that they are looking at investment opportunities, and they're actually approaching companies in the Middle East to pump in some money. And if you remember, the IPL also, there was a similar scenario where the Kochi franchise had managed to, they received investment from this consortium known as Rendezvous Sports, which is based out of Dubai, but that led to some problems anyhow. But there is a serious lack of investment currently, and Indian football could actually use money coming in from different sources. So let's see how that goes. Currently, the Indian League is looking to sort of revamp its structure. So hopefully, the new model that they come up with would ensure that they come up with sustainable revenue, so that more investment pours in. The Indian Football Association, that's the AIFF, which is the controlling regulatory body, they have more of a say in how the media money comes in, and they split up the money, and they hand it over to the respective clubs. So of course, there's like a major difference compared to the successful business model that you have in Europe, and India could really learn and probably take lessons from how the successful clubs in India in Europe are running, and probably sort of imitate that model. I have a few figures actually. Currently the AIFF has I think a 15-year contract with IMG Reliance, which is worth close to 70 crore rupees. And for over 15 years, that is being split up with across 6 to 8 clubs in India. So it doesn't quite look like there is a lot of money in there. And considering that the three major sources of revenue for any football clubs would be gate revenues, sponsorship, and media rights. And media rights is completely controlled by the regulatory body, that's the AIFF. While sponsorship and gate revenues are sort of in the hands of the football clubs. And on top of that, you've got a sort of a limit to the number of sponsorships that any football club can have within the ground, and etc., which is apparently 6. So not too much potential there. And gate revenues, according to figures that we have, it's pretty low, and it's pretty worrying actually, considering that people are hardly watching Indian football at all in India. People hardly turn up in numbers to watch matches live. So gate revenues bare minimum. So it's pretty difficult because clubs are barely breaking even. They're not making enough money. I mean, the cost that is going into running a football club, they're not even recouping those costs. So we've got a major problem over here in terms of long-term sustainability of a football club in India. I think the AIFF should probably take a backseat slightly, so to speak, so that they give the Indian clubs more autonomy, so that they have complete authority in terms of running their business. So as they see fit, if they want to go and get more sponsors, they should go about it. They should probably get the best deal. As well as I read this another interesting piece of information. Apparently, salaries that are being paid by Indian clubs in India for players in India is on par with possibly the Australian League, considering that the quality of the Australian League and the Australian national team is far ahead of what the Indian League is. And a lot of money, the cost is very, very high. Possibly what India should do and an Indian club should do is, of course, look at the model of clubs like that favor youth, of course far cry clubs like Barcelona and Ajax, who have excellent youth systems. So possibly have good youth systems in place. That's a long-term project, but that's something that should be done if we are to ever if football clubs in India are to sort of make money, because that would cost a lot of less if you get people through your system. And also, I mean, if we ever want to take part in the World Cup in the future, we have to ensure that there is the right kind of investment in youth. Currently, you've got 2 football clubs based out of Goa, 2 to 3 football clubs based out of Kolkata. So it's very, very sporadic and very, very concentrated. You don't have football clubs all over the country. If you compare MLS, MLS has got New York City Red Bulls, and you've got like the Chicago Fire, Houston Rockets onto the eastern side. On the western side, the eastern side, you've got again like LA Galaxy, Qatar. So you've got like clubs from all over and equally represented, which is not the case in India. I think like in India, definitely the interest, the passion that you have in metropolitan cities like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore needs to be tapped. I don't even think that these cities are represented well enough in the league. Bangalore doesn't have a football club of its own. Like you were mentioning sometime earlier, Bangalore has a Gunners, a fan club, and they host regular screenings. That's the case even in Bombay, but we don't see that being translated into proper football clubs, proper infrastructure where fans can go in. There's so much passion being generated between when RCB, when Royal Challengers play Chennai Super Kings in an IPL game. That can be easily translated also to a football pitch. Where we can have derbies, we can have Delhi versus Bombay, but I don't think it's being tapped. People are not looking at the big picture as such. There's a lot of money to be made, frankly, considering how popular. I think football is sort of the number 2 sport now in India. Viewership is number 2 to cricket in India, especially when you've got a World Cup or a Euro a year. Viewership rises dramatically in comparison to other sports. So, in my opinion, there's a lot of money to be made. The time is right, but I think the AIFF and the league that is in place, we have to get something going.
But the state of Indian football is changing. In an attempt to recognize this, India has bid for the 2017 edition of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. To find out how this would impact football in the nation, I spoke to Indian football correspondent Amoy Ghoshal via Skype.
I think if we do get that chance to host the 2017 World Cup, it will be a massive boost, especially for the infrastructure. Because to host a World Cup, you need stadiums. And at the moment, in India, you have just one FIFA accredited stadium, which means like to have an all-seater stadium, and that stadium is in. But even though it has an all-seater stadium, the ground condition is pathetic because you don't have I-League teams playing there. You mostly have school tournaments and local league tournaments there, so the ground is not well maintained. But if FIFA awards the rights, they will need assurances of having proper stadiums. The solution for India at the moment has been artificial turfs. They have too many artificial turfs. Like there's an artificial turf in Calcutta, there's an artificial turf in Mizoram, and we are also having an artificial turf in Mumbai. But solely artificial turfs are not enough. You need to have proper dressing rooms, proper media centers, proper referees rooms, which no stadium in India has at the moment. When Lionel Messi came to play in Calcutta, everything was renovated at the Salt Lake Stadium. But then again, everything went back to where it was, where you have dirty stadiums, where the fire extinguishers have already crossed their expiry date. So it went in probably a 12 months time after Messi's appearance in Calcutta, it went back to where it was 10 years back. So I think before FIFA grants us the rights to host the tournament, they would want assurances from the government as well. So if we do get to host the tournament, it will be a massive lift for the infrastructure of the game because whenever a foreign player or a foreign coach comes in, the first thing they complain about is infrastructure. Because without proper stadiums, you won't get to see better teams coming in and improvement in the youth structure. So hosting the 2017 World Cup will be a massive step. But then again, we have seen what happened with the Commonwealth Games, where hosting rights were given, but we didn't pull it. We just about pulled it off, and the opening ceremony saved our grace after a lot of problems with many aspects of the Commonwealth Games. So just getting the hosting rights is not enough. We have to be more professional, like the way we have hosted many cricket tournaments and the IPL. Maybe we can take expertise from them and build our infrastructure better. That is the biggest positive that can come out from the Under-17 World Cup. I think the first and most important thing is giving importance to the sport at grassroots level. And when I say grassroots level, it doesn't only mean clubs having 4 or 5 age group teams. It means most maximum schools should have a playground at a minimum. Because I can tell you, schools in Calcutta, for example, the school that has the most students, they don't have a playground. Okay, so they go to the school, they come back, they go to tuitions, they are on their PlayStation. So they don't play at all. Whether you want to play cricket, whether you want to play football, basketball, volleyball, doesn't matter. You have to start playing from a small age, and you have to be encouraged to take that sport seriously. Like sports has to be part of of the school curriculum. Now, obviously, government plays a big part, but there are many private schools who don't run on government aid, but they don't take sports seriously. They don't realize how important a team sport can be in the growth of overall growth of a child, because team sport gives you the discipline which even studying a school doesn't give you, because team sport gives you the discipline, and that is where I think we have to get it right. Obviously, the clubs have to have their own age group teams and youth structure, but the basic problem is at school level, kids have to be encouraged to play sport, no matter what sport it is. It can be indoor games, it can be outdoor games, but they have to be encouraged to play sport. Once that happens, everything will fall into place. That kid who played sport from a young age will grow up and would want to in sport, even if he's a corporate or even if he's a lawyer or a doctor. And that kid who eventually ends up in a, because whoever ends up in a political party comes from among us. And if he has played a sport at a young age, then he would also be encouraged to encourage sports when he's a political leader or when he's a more influential. So the basic problem is having to encourage kids to play sport from a very young age. Once that happens, I'm sure we will at least start off being compared to other sporting nations.
But while Amoy thinks that this World Cup will benefit the nation, former Times of India journalist Vineet Krishnan disagrees, saying that the All India Football Federation, or the AIFF, has to seize on this opportunity at the right time.
The way it is going right now, it will not help at all, because and why I say that is because I followed the setting up of the under 14 the academies quite closely. I was in Calcutta for a little while, and I was in Kerala for all of the recruitment. And what happened when they took about 120 to 140 odd kids to Kalyan, where they have the regional academy that's off Calcutta, and they took them there, and in the first week they found out that about 70 to 90% of them were overage. These were state institutions, state associations, hand-picking a select group of players, saying these are our best under 14 talent, and from them Scott O'Donnell and other coaches picked them up and brought them to Kalyan, and you had about a large number of them being testing for overage, some as overage is 17 years old. Now, where is the game going to go forward from there when not even one state association, with the exception of Goa and Kerala, I have to give it to them, and at least this is my understanding of it, it could be wrong, but from my understanding, these two states were the only ones which actually sent in kids who were actual of the current age limit. Again, I have to say it could be, I could be proved wrong with this. But so where are we going to go forward? The whole idea of focusing on the 2017 World Cup for the under 17s was that India, if we get in as hosts and we train these kids for 3 years, could reach a level where they could not win the tournament. No one's expecting them to win the tournament, but at least put up a show. At least put up a good effort, display some good attacking football, for example, and get some good results against the major countries in the world. So, and that would have given a fillip to Indian football, which it has not received in the last so many years. That was the plan, that is still the plan. It all depends whether the associations and whether the AFF cooperate with FIFA on this matter. I hope they do. I know for a fact that Sepp Blatter has, on a couple of occasions at least, made clear his desire to have that World Cup in India. And we all know that for whatever Sepp Blatter is, when he decides on something, he usually gets it done. There are a lot of issues which are wrong with Indian football at the moment. The money is starting to come in, and it's a good start, but there is definitely a long way to go. I think the AIFF, for example, has learned from the NBA and what they have done. What they have done is started tackling things from the grassroots level. They have come in with a 20 to 30 year future project in mind. They are looking to unearth the next Yao Ming from India. They were very upbeat about it, and they do not expect that to happen in 5 or 10 years. They are in it for the long haul. They started with grassroots programs, having NBA challenges for schools, 3-on-3 sessions, making it interesting, interactive. Through Sony Picks, they're doing a lot to actually promote the game in India in itself, and they're involving a lot of the right names, a lot of the previous Indian basketball stars, the current Indian basketball stars, Gitu Anna Josh, for example. And they're doing a brilliant job, and that is probably the way that the AIFF has to tackle it as well. FIFA is going about things in the right manner for me by focusing on the under 14s. You have to start even further back. You have to start from the grassroots level. You have someone like Scott O'Donnell at the top of the FIFA regional academies. He was the AFC grassroots level director for a while before he took up the sports. And he has the right ideas in mind from what I've interacted with him. Looking at the grassroots, not just the under 14s, the grassroots are even further down. The 8-year-old brackets, the 9-year-old brackets, setting up small playgrounds in cities, encouraging kids to take up the game. The AFC licensing, a lot of coaches who had Indian AFC licenses from NIS Patiala, for example, or other similar licenses, did not really know what they were doing. They were the old tried and tested methods that were taught in the 70s and 80s being followed through. Now with a revision of the licenses happening thanks to AIFF and FIFA, you will get a lot more updated coaches coming through using modern training regimes, modern training techniques, which will also negate a lot of the on-ground injuries that a lot of players have suffered at a young age and have to take it forward. So things are moving in the right direction. There's a long way to go, but at least something is happening now. I hope that in the next 10 to 15 years, you'll see a good crop of youngsters come through. Already you have the Tata Football Academy doing a very good job. I mean, we have a lot of really good players coming out of that academy. And it needs to be a public-private partnership. You need to rope in Tata Football Academy. You need to ensure that the skill sets being taught at DFA is the same skill sets which are being taught at the under 14 camps that the AIFF has in place. So it's a coordination job. Who does that? Whether it is the marketing people in IMG Reliance, whether it's the AIFF, whether it's FIFA. Right now it's definitely FIFA which is calling the short game. Rob Ban at the level. There were a lot of Dutch coaches coming in, and the Dutch are amazing at dealing with kids. And you're trying to instill that sort of technique into the Indian game, which to me is good. There's a lot of Indian coaches particularly calling for Indian coaches to come in and take over and do away with the foreign coaches. But to them, all I have to ask is, you've had 60 years to do your method of training in India, and where have you taken the country?
But despite the presence of sports such as football and hockey, cricket dominates India's landscape. Why not then go to the belly of the beast? Arya Yujutsu and Kanishka Balachandran work for ESPN Cricket Info.
See, I think cricket would have become India's favourite sport, I think in the early 80s after the 83 World Cup. And that would have to be, I wouldn't say that it was not popular before that, but that was a turning point, because that's a time when cricket started displacing hockey as the number one sport in India. So that win has really sparked off a huge following and the belief that India could actually win a world tournament in a sport other than hockey. So, I mean, I was born a year before the World Cup win, so I've never seen the era before. But what I have been told is that yes, cricket, that was really the turning point, and there's been no looking back ever since. And I think for about a period of 10 years after the World Cup, cricket was popular, but then became ultra popular when I think television became big. Advent of satellite television, and cricket matches from all across the world being beamed on live television, so we could watch games from different time zones. So that is, I think, the launch of the number of television channels has obviously made cricket even more popular than it was at the time when they won the World Cup. The IPL came about because of Lalit Modi. Okay. Lalit Modi was a visionary. He pictured this tournament many years before the IPL actually came into existence. So, see, he had that was his business plan. So, and he employed it for cricket. Now, if football had somebody like him to sort of spruce it up, and if there was a tournament of an IPL-like tournament that comes up for Indian football, I think that'll be great. We've seen it happen in hockey with the Hockey India League. I don't know how far successful it is, but the fact is that they at least tried something. I would like to see that happen with Indian football and see how far it goes. We should not expect too much, but it'll certainly be worth trying. But somebody has to step forward and do that.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think the packaging element is important.
but at the same time there is the importance of having quality players.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to a stadium, spend money to watch mediocre players kicking the ball around when I can sit at home and watch Man United and Barcelona play on television.
Yeah.
But when I'm watching the IPL, these are the best players in the world. You have Dale Steyn bowling to Sachin Tendulkar. That's the best contest you'll get in the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there you have, I don't even know which teams would be the best, which is a national champion. And when I watch the level of football, it's not that great.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the tiki-taka game that you get to watch on television if you switch it on.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you package it. You still, you can have cheerleaders and everything, but you need that game. If you don't have the game, you really won't get that many viewers. When you're one of the world's best, you watch it. You know, when you're winning a World Cup, you're going to watch it. If we win the Hockey World Cup tomorrow, you'd see kids on the streets with a hockey stick. And that's not just to bash up other people, but, you know, really playing the sport. And it's the same thing. If we qualify for the Football World Cup, you'd see, I mean, it'll be crazy. We have, I remember a few years back, a guy called Michael Chopra played for Sunderland.
Yeah.
He played for Cardiff, Sunderland, whatever. He played in the Premiership, and he's nowhere near Indian,
Yeah.
right? He might have an Indian origin somewhere, and that's where we clung on and we went, hey, you know, there's this guy called Michael Chopra who's playing, and we watched Sunderland matches because we wanted to keep track of how Michael Chopra did.
Yeah.
That's how crazy we can be. All you need is a few good football players playing for, I don't know, Man United and Arsenal, and they actually get a chance to play. It'll help the game in a big way. We don't even need the Indian team to go up to the best level. We are so strangely patriotic that we cling on to foreigners who have an Indian origin.
The huge difference between cricket and other sports in India is the money.
Okay.
Now, like I was going back to my point earlier, only if football or tennis gets pumped in with a lot, or hockey gets pumped in with the kind of money cricket has, only then will kids be encouraged to take up that sport full time. Only then will they be encouraged. Otherwise, they'll always be thinking about cricket. Cricket will always come first, and then it'll be the other sports next. So it's money for me is the deciding factor.
Alright, fine.
I think that lots of elements involved. The more I think of it, I find a new thing every time. Money, fine. I admit money is a huge factor, but there's also the factor of, you know, playing for India is a matter of pride, and you relate to this Indian cricket team. You have grown up. I've grown up watching India play badly in the 90s and then reach a World Cup final, lose the World Cup final. I have so many emotions involved with the Indian cricket team that donning that India cap is a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you meet an Indian cricketer, whether I recognize him or not, I'm like, wow, you've played cricket for India. That's it. All doors are open. I think that legend status that the game has is beginning to be tarnished with things like spot fixing and all, and they're doing I think that's the one thing that I can imagine would ruin cricket in India, would be where lots of Indians get involved in match fixing and spot fixing, and that's revealed. And I'm putting it in a very strange way, but that's the best hope that other sports have to overthrow cricket.
In a nutshell, and the underlying reasons for the problems that exist within Indian football is due to the attitude of the game's administrators and Indian football's lack of recent successes on the world stage. Something that Indian cricket has. But that could soon change. That will be covered in my next episode, where I take a look at what changes are being laid at grassroots level in an attempt to revamp the game. I also talk to coaches who tell me a little bit about the sporting culture in the nation. Until then, thank you for tuning in, goodbye and take care.